Let's switch gears now, and fresh off a primary victory, Senator Marco Rubio is joining us from Miami this morning to talk about issues facing the state as we move forward toward the general election. Senator Rubio, good morning, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
Senator, let's get right to a big issue affecting Miami, all of South Florida, the entire state, Zika. We've heard you talk about the lack of funding there. When Congress does reconvene, what specifically do you want to see in this funding coming to our state?
Well, the Congress before the end of September is going to have to come up with a funding mechanism to keep the government open, whether it's what they call a continuing resolution or a budget. Whatever mechanism is used, Zika funding needs to be a part of that. And that's what I've been pushing and working here, and hopefully we can get a good result on it. I feel cautiously optimistic that after the August and the summer we've had and the cases we've seen here in Florida, including yesterday, mosquitoes on Miami Beach actually testing positive for the first time ever in the United States, in the continental United States or mainland, having mosquitoes test positive for Zika, that this is going to be finally what gets some of our colleagues over the line. The issue's largely been in the House and the Senate. We actually have been able to pass bipartisan legislation that provides over $1 billion for Zika funding, including the development of a vaccine. And so hopefully we'll have good news for you next week. It'll take a little bit more work, but I think we're making progress.
Well, that'll make a lot of people happy, especially with the prime tourist season about to hit South Florida. Let's turn now to your opponent, Congressman Patrick Murphy, who jumped right on your comments that you couldn't commit to a full 6-year term if you were reelected. Do you still feel that way?
Well, that's not accurate. All I've ever said is no one can tell you for sure where they're going to be 5 years from now. Things in life change, but I can tell you what I'm committed to. And I'm running for U.S. Senate for a 6-year term, and it is my intention to serve the state and to serve it for the full term. Now, obviously, that's the term of the Senate. I'm proud of what I've done over the last 6 years. But what you're going to find throughout this campaign is that Patrick Murphy is going to continue to come up with things like this and make things up because he has no record of achievement. This guy's been in Congress for 4 years. He can't talk to you about a single signature achievement. He's not a hard worker. He's kind of a lazy guy, and he's also not very accomplished or effective. And so he makes things up, like his resume. He claims to be a CPA. He's never worked in Florida as a CPA. He claims that he was a small business owner. That's been debunked. Not only was he not a small business owner, the business he claims he was associated with didn't have any contracts to clean up the Gulf, as he claimed. He claimed he had a dual degree from the University of Miami, which the university says isn't true. All of that is to cover up the fact that he's been in Congress for 4 years and has done nothing. I can give you a long list of things we've done, even though Democrats were in charge in the Senate for the 6 years that I've been there. That's the kind of work I'll continue to do. No one has or will work harder for this state or for our country than I have, and I've got the record to prove it, and he doesn't. And that's why he comes up with these excuses for not debating.
Senator, this week, to an extent, Donald Trump revised his speech on immigration, specifically deportation issues. Heard a lot from him this week. Do you think what he's putting forth now as the Republican candidate for president is a good proposal?
Well, to be fair, I haven't read his speech and I didn't see it. I've just seen the media reports on it. I can tell you what my position is, and you can compare it to whatever it is he said. And I believe that the only way forward if we want to reform immigration is the first step has to be to prove to people that illegal immigration is under control, that the border is secure, that we have an entry-exit tracking system to prevent visa overstays. If we can achieve that, I think the enormous majority of Americans in both parties are prepared to do something very reasonable about people that are here illegally. If you've been here a long time and you're not a criminal and you learn English and you pay a fine because you violated the law and you start paying taxes, people are prepared to accommodate it. Now, if you're a criminal, you're going to be deported. I don't care how long you've been here. That's also a majority position in America. But I don't think you can get to any of that until you prove to people that illegal immigration is under control, because what people will say, and rightfully so, is, we can't be back here in 10 years with a new 11 million person problem. So it's going to have to take those two steps in that order for us to move forward on immigration, and we should, because what we have now isn't working for anyone.
Another issue that's near and dear to the hearts of many people in our viewing area is the blue algae crisis, the blue-green algae crisis that we've been struggling with for years, still dealing with it. What do you think could be done so we aren't talking about it 6 years from now? Many voters we're just tired of this impasse and getting something done about it.
Right, and you should be tired of all the talk and a lot of it misleading people for their own individual agendas. Here's the fact. Lake Okeechobee is polluted with nutrients, and those nutrients are being flushed into the estuaries and into the lagoon which is what's creating this blue-green algae problem. 97% of the water that's going into Lake Okeechobee is coming from north of Lake Okeechobee. And so what we need to do is create the ability to hold more water north of the lake, some more water south, allow more clean water to flow south into the Everglades, which needs that fresh water, and therefore less water has to go into these canals and estuaries and lagoon and avoid some of these problems. That's a multi-project process, but the single largest piece of it is the Central Everglades planning process. After over a decade of opposition, I was able, in the Senate, to get my colleague from Oklahoma, Jim Inhofe, to lift his objection to moving forward on the Central Everglades Planning Project. It is included in the water bill that I hope Democrats won't block and that we can take up here in the month of September. And if we can get moving on that process, that begins to move into place a lot of individual projects that help alleviate this problem. And there may be more that needs to be done after that, but that's the single.
All right, we do want to thank Senator Marco Rubio joining us and answering a lot of questions at length. We know we will be talking with him a lot before the general election for sure.